As of right now, President Biden is warning millions and millions of Americans that we are very close to going to war. We're potentially going to go to war with Russia, with Iran, and China. I want to address why President Biden is saying this, what we are going to do about it, and what this means moving forward. Now, all I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now, let's begin. So why would the President of the United States be warning the American people that we are about to go to war? Well, it's for multiple reasons. Now, here's what I can tell you. The chances of the United States going to war, unfortunately, are higher than what they should be. And it's because of 3 things that are going on. Number 1, we have this issue between Russia and Ukraine. If the United States doesn't actually help Ukraine and give them additional funding, then we could potentially be closer to a war. Doesn't mean we're going to war, but this is something that China is looking at as well. So that's the first issue. The next issue is between Israel and Hamas. Iran and Iranian-backed groups are looking at the United States and blaming us for these constant attacks on the people of Gaza and obviously of Hamas. But is it the United States' fault? No. But that doesn't matter. So that's another potential attack. The third one has to do with Taiwan. Right now, all I can tell you is that President Xi Jinping of China has warned President Biden that Beijing will reunify Taiwan with mainland China. It's going to happen at some point. We do not know exactly when. Some are speculating it will be between 2025 and 2028. But again, we just don't know. But here's what we do know. President Biden and many lawmakers have stated that we have to pass additional legislation to Ukraine. We need to pass additional legislation to Taiwan, to the Indo-Pacific, to Gaza, to Israel. And if we do not pass this, there's an increased chance that we go to war with another country. Now, let me break that down because that's a lot. How can we send all this money to all these other countries and that's going to prevent us from going to war? Well, here's what it is going to do. Based off the statements that we've received from many lawmakers, from many world leaders as well, the United States is pretty much at the forefront of this because Russia is blaming the U.S. for prolonging this war. Russia at this time, based off of recent reports from insiders, what we know is that Russia is actually losing a lot of military equipment and a lot of troops. This is a concern. But this is where Russia is saying that the U.S. is to blame because if we would not have stepped in, Russia would have taken over probably the majority of Ukraine, would have been out of Ukraine by now instead of starting the 3rd year. Keep in mind, we're going into the 3rd year of this Russia-Ukraine war. And it's causing a lot of pain for many economies all around the world. The other thing I just want to be very clear. Okay? It's not just Biden that's warning the American people. Other lawmakers are doing this too. For instance, Senator Chris Coons, he's saying that the U.S. troops will be on the front lines against Russia without further Ukraine aid. Now, what I can tell you is that many lawmakers are almost inciting fear in order to hopefully get the American people to call their representatives and tell them, hey, we need to send more funding to Ukraine. It's not really working though. The reason why it's not really working is because it's not just Ukraine that's getting money. It's not just Ukraine that's going to get help. It's also going to be Gaza for humanitarian assistance. It's going to be Israel. And this is going to pay for additional weapons and obviously some destruction that has been caused in Israel. Another one is funding for Taiwan. And this is a big one. The reason why this is a big one is because if the United States doesn't do more for Taiwan, China is potentially going to invade Taiwan. Now, here's where things get interesting. According to reports, the Chinese President Xi Jinping is looking at what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, seeing how this is taking about 3 years. This is going on to the third year in Ukraine. China doesn't want to take 3 years to go and overtake Taiwan. They don't want to spend that much time, that many resources, just taking over a small island just right off their coast. But they would. So, based off of recent reports from experts, they're saying that China is ramping up and preparing just in case it does take 1, 2, or potentially 3 years to go and reunify Taiwan with mainland China. Because of this, the United States is on full alert. But at the same time, we are being warned that there's a chance we could go to war with China. Now, nobody in the world wants to see the United States go to war with either Russia or China. Any of those three cannot go to war against each other. That would be a massive conflict. That would be a huge problem, not just for those two countries or those three countries, but for the entire world. Now, the last thing that's happening right now, which is actually pretty big, this could actually take place within this next week. I want to show you this. President Biden is saying that he hopes to see a ceasefire by next week in the Israel-Hamas war. Based off of the statements that have been made, we're getting close. President Biden says, "My hope is by next Monday we will have a ceasefire." He says, "My national security advisor tells me that we're close. Close, but not done yet." I want to read you one other thing, because this is starting to give us an idea of where we're at. This right here says, and this is an article for NBC News, it says, according to several senior administration officials and Arab diplomats, the negotiators are racing to reach a temporary ceasefire. This is not only to release some of the hostages taken on October 7th and get more aid to starving Gazans, the official said, but to prevent an explosion of violence around the region when the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins on March 10th. That's the key right there. March 10th. So we have about 2 weeks. Until this, till the Muslim holy month of Ramadan begins. But keep this in mind. We now have a date. There's a deadline there. That's when they want to get this ceasefire done. And here's the reason why that is big news. If we can get a ceasefire agreed to between Israel and Hamas, the good thing about this is Iran, according to their statements, will stop hitting ships in the Red Sea. Will stop targeting U.S. troops in the Middle East. So that right there would take out one of the threats of a war with the United States. If we are not going to war with Russia and China, which in my opinion is highly unlikely because nobody would want that, my guess is the only one that we're going to go to war with is Iran or one of these Iranian-backed groups. Well, the only reason why they're attacking the United States, U.S. troops and shipping vessels going through the Red Sea, is simply because they say they are standing up for Gaza. They're standing up for the Palestinian people. That's what they're saying. So we'll see if that's true or not, but as of right now, that is what we know. Again, President Biden is warning millions that if we do not do more to provide additional assistance to Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, Taiwan, and the Indo-Pacific, well, we could potentially be at war sooner than anyone ever thought. So that's what we know as of right now. As always, as I know more, I promise I'll come back on and share all latest news and updates, but that is what we know as of today. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.